So there's a lot of new people here. I just want to give you guys a little bit of background on Restech and why SampleCon is so important. It was here where we actually took a vote, Patrick Comer, myself, on how to define the industry and how to name it. And it was at a SampleCon in 2020 where we agreed that Restech was the name that we were going to use to unify the industry. Why it was important was investors were looking at our space and they couldn't really understand and make heads or tails about how the industry is structured and defined. So it gave us a jumping off point to really take the perspective of defining the industry. There was a virtual Restech, I think it was during COVID actually, virtual conference where we actually had some founders talk about their company. We interviewed them, we had investors, and we started trying to build conversation and collaboration with investors as well as founders of the industry so they could understand what we were doing. We took it a step further. We developed Restecher, which is a website that Patrick and I developed, which was really a place for content to understand what was happening in the industry, and also a place where we published the Restech landscape. We updated. And then last year, we actually had our first Capital Markets Day in person in New York City, and we'll do one again July 20th in New York City. So a little bit of history. This was the first Restech landscape, and this was actually a really great starting off point because it really gave people an understanding of where the industry is. It was probably also centered a little bit more around business model, as well as the categories. When we updated the second landscape, we looked at it a little differently, and in fact, I still can't believe we said this. We said, let's look at this as pancakes stacked on each other. So either you can vertically integrate up and down and talk to clients, or a client can engage with you in any part of this landscape. And we looked at it more from a client perspective versus a business model. So now we're updating landscape 3. I want to talk to you a little bit about what we're seeing and how we're going to impact the landscape. Should I just be done here and say AI? That's it. If there's anybody that's doubting that AI is not going to change our industry, I guess I just want to share a little proof points. Clients, I think I presented last year, the year before, and I said, out of all the kind of public filings in the S&P 500 companies, 72% of people said that they had, in their filings, said they're going to use AI to create efficiency. Last year, 99%. So you guys are seeing it with clients, right? They're mandated to use AI to drive efficiency. And you guys are feeling it. We do a quarterly pulse with the Insights Association with CEOs in the industry. And if you look at the primary concern that CEOs have, obviously it's economic uncertainty, but look at the acceleration and adoption of AI and the concern. It kind of hovered around 6 to 8% for 3 quarters last year. Fourth quarter, it jumped up to 18%. That's significant. It's a big concern. So as we look at the Restech landscape, the question really is, does it structurally change because of AI? And our thesis is it's not going to change structurally this time around. There's still transition, there's still innovation, and these categories still stand up. But what we do believe is we have to add segments to the landscape. We talked about synthetic data. Here's another one, intelligence layers. We're seeing companies buy proprietary data, adding it onto their customer data platforms, adding it into third-party tools to provide real-time intelligence as it relates to their business. So it's always on research. It doesn't even, they integrate survey data, voice of the customer, CX data, UX data, and you'll see that in the M&A landscape as to how that changed. AI-driven MR workflow tools. Actually, the 2 big words I wanted to say outside of AI have been workflow and have been intelligence systems. So we are seeing, and I think this is a lot of impact on current staff, where we're seeing more efficiency in the market research process. We have companies that focus on one sole focus, a part of the market research value chain, and there's other companies that kind of start from start to finish in terms of providing efficiency. And you guys are familiar with these companies. Some focus on qual, some focus on quant, some say it doesn't matter. I can get everything, and we're not going to classify it. We categorize digital twins as separate, and I think sometimes when we look within our industry, we kind of wonder what's happening. Is it or is it not going to happen? But these stats here are for across all industries in terms of the use of digital twins. Like Patrick said, in terms of Tesla driving maps, that's already happening. People are using that. And so it's just a matter of time in which we find the use case within our industry. If you look at the kind of market size, in 2026, it's $40 billion. And over the next 10 years, we're going to see about a 20% growth rate, compound average growth rate. Synthetic data. While I was doing research for our map, I found there's another map that has actually synthetic data, both structured and unstructured. And if you look at just the synthetic data platforms, that market size is going to be estimated to be about $3.7 billion in 2033. Okay, where's Keith? There you go. I got it on the slide. Aru received $1 billion valuation that focused solely on synthetic data. And I believe they were teenagers. So that says, like, again, market signals are, it's here to stay, money's there, and it's just continue to validate the use case. I'll talk about some trends. So as we all talked about, human data feeds the synthetic data. And we believe that I believe there's going to be a proliferation of data quality tools. Everybody's going to license the same tools. There's two things that are going to happen. One, how do you stitch them together? And how do you work with the whole market research supply chain to ensure that you actually get a respondent in the survey? So it's going to be high touch and really working through each of the different partners and ensure that you get people into the survey. I also think we'll see a rise of other methodologies. You'll see on the map that there's been a lot of acquisition about eye tracking to ensure that there are human beings behind the research. Also starting to see verification of a % of sample, phone verification, other methodologies to prove that the quality is there. More consolidation and investment. So where's Dan Entrup? I can't see you. Yep, thanks to Dan, we pulled from his database, and we just did a quick search on companies that got invested that were either consumer insights, market research, synthetic, and ballpark calculation, we got to about $5.6 billion last year. That's a lot of money, and the average round was about 41 million. So again, not necessarily saying it's square in this part of the ecosystem, but there's money and bets being placed in terms of AI and how it impacts the industry. I don't know if you guys can see this. So part of the landscape we focused on last year, or last time we updated, was just a little bit more information about M&A. And as you can see, I talked about the companies that were acquired, and it kind of plays the story. A lot of acquisition in the CX, UX place, a lot of acquisition around eye tracking, third-party analytics, third-party data, and text analytics. So the story unfolds in terms of quality and proprietary data in terms of creating a competitive advantage. And I just have a few slides that go through each category for you guys to look at, because it's an eyesore. Sorry, I'll just go through this. So what's next? As always, we want feedback from you. Are there other segments that you see emerging? We are integrating a little bit more sophisticated AI classification that I'll let Patrick talk to you at happy hour. He's using agents to score. I don't know, what version are you on, 7? Yep. And we'll try to give some sort of taxonomy around that. We'll add the new segments, add new players, and we'll have Capital Markets Day in July. For more updates, restecher.com, reach out to Patrick and myself. We want to hear from you guys if you have questions or comments. And that's it.